how secure is our economy again? The FDIC just issued a crazy warning and sounds the alarm when it comes to your banks. If the FDIC is sounding the alarm, saying we may be in a struggle, remember, they're the ones that backs your money. How safe is your money again? Let's jump into these stories today because it is eye-opening. Because remember, we've been told that our economy is fine. We can't afford inflation. We can't afford homes. We can't afford automobiles, but everything's going good because the market's strong. Well, how strong is the market when all of a sudden we hear that our banking system is failing? Let's talk about it today.
Show me what it's like to be circling among the clouds, because without you by my side.
Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. It is a gorgeous morning. Glad we had rains, but man, I'm so glad to see the sun. I hope the weather's been good in your areas. I know there's been some crazy storms across the Midwest, so I hope that you've been safe through all this. But we are blessed to have a beautiful, beautiful day. Now, today's video, we're going to talk about something that's just depressing because it affects all of us because it deals with our money, but we need to be paying attention because it depends on where we put our money if it affects us or not. We're in a time where meme stocks, people like the Roaring Kitty has made GameStop stock go like crazy. There was a quote unquote technical issue and it made several stocks just bottom out on the stock market. However, everybody's telling us the stock market's doing great. It may be, but remember, average normal Americans are not looking at the stock market and the Dow and the NASDAQ to give them hope. They're looking at their checkbook to see what's best for them. Well, this would affect all of us, not just the upper echelon. It would affect everyone because this is from the FDIC. The FDIC is your insurance carrier that helps banks supposedly make sure that your money is safe in that bank up to a certain limit. I'm gonna read this to you. It says the U.S. banking system is facing significant challenges with a, listen to this now, 517 billion with the B, of unrealized losses. A $39 billion increase from the previous quarter, meaning we're trending in the worst direction that's possible. We were already trending downward in the banking financial system where it was struggling. Now we're trending, going down a hill even quicker because it's saying, not only was it decreasing, it's decreasing by another $39 billion just in the last quarter. The FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, has warned that 63 lenders on the brink of insolvency. Now, what does that mean? They don't tell you what that means. 63 lenders insolvency. What it means is 63 banks are fisting to collapse. Did you hear that? Fisting, that's a southern word. If you're from the South, you know that. Fisting to collapse. It says that there's a major concern and there's a raising implication of the economic stability of our nation when we have potential bank failures that are broader and bigger than thought, even last quarter. So a few things. First of all, it doesn't list who these 63 are. So first of all, if you're in these bigger banks or these regional banks that's got a lot of branches, you need to be very wary of that and make sure all your funds are not just sitting in that bank. Now, I'm not telling you to go deplete all your banks. I didn't say that. But I am saying you better have a friendly respect to having cash. You better have a friendly respect to having a few banking relationships. You better have a friendly respect with having things that are assets like vehicles, land, homes, gold. We better be looking at other assets because here's what's going to happen. Banking falters. That hurts every American. And you're thinking, well, that hurts a lot of Americans, but there's a lot of richer families that will keep the economies going. Your businesses will stay open. So therefore, if people lose money, the government will back a certain amount, and they will, even though the government has no money. And remember, the cash and the dollars are only backed by the government's ableness to pay it back and find worth in it. Well, if everybody is bringing their dollars back because they want the BRIC system or all the things going on in the world, people are distrusting America anyway. They're not honoring their bonds. They're not buying new bonds from America like China. It could be bad anyway. But say, for instance, those banks collapse. Well, you know, you're like, okay, well, I could still work because there's been a lot of cash in the economy. So we should be okay still. What happens is when the banking sector collapses, Wall Street tends to emulate Main Street in the worst of times. So here's what I'm saying. Eventually, just like the housing market just snuck up on us on 08, 09, it actually did not sneak up on us. It had been going on with subprime lending. but we didn't realize it because it wasn't affecting the majority bigger stock exchange and what we would consider the whole American economy. It was just affecting with some lenders just not being able to pay their debts back. It affected some banks. Then all of a sudden, Lehman Brothers, all of a sudden, these bigger banks started faltering. Then it put us in a great recession. We're in the same situation, actually even more chaotic, because we have double and tripled the debt since then. We are now in a deficit over $1 trillion every 100 days of a deficit because of our economy. So therefore, what we're emulating on the local economy, what we're emulating in our local economies where we can't afford rent, we can't afford our utilities, we're delinquent in our credit cards, we're delinquent in our automobiles, what that means is that's putting the pressure on the banks. That's actually what's putting the pressure on the banks, because the people are taking their money out of the bank because they can't afford to put money in the bank, they have no savings. Then they're not putting extra deposits in because they're already upside down by the time they get their monthly check or their bi-weekly check or payroll. They've already spent it, so there's not extra money going into the banking system. So then therefore it's causing a major problem in the banking sector. Do you realize the FDIC does not have the kind of money to cover even these 63 banks? Look it up. They don't have $517 billion. That's why they're sounding the alarm. If these banks shut down, these banks and these people will not get their money. Now here's what the government will say. The administration, Biden would come out and say, look, we're going to take care of them. The Fed is going to take care of them. So what they're saying is we're going to print even more money now to give you falsified money to then make inflation go up even more, because the money wasn't there in the insurance. The money wasn't there in the bank. We caused the problem because of the debt inflation. So therefore, if we put more debt and inflation into the system, it's all going to be better. Do you honestly believe that? So why are they sounding the alarm? Because they're trying to tell you to be smart with your money. They're trying to tell the elected officials, quit spending money we don't have. They're trying to tell the Biden administration, our own insurance program is not fully funded to a point where it can even take care of 63 banks, much less the thousands of banks in America. If all of a sudden you looked at your bank account and it was goose egg, what would you do? If all of a sudden everything you've worked hard for, you pull it up on your app on your phone and it's goose egg, what would you do? You know what? Money is a major part of our lives. We work for it, too hard for it, it becomes a root of all evil, really, to be honest with you. But if we can enjoy the things that money can give us and learn to buy assets versus liabilities, where we're not wanting wants, we're getting needs. I don't know if you've been paying attention to our vlog channel, but our vlog channel, we've been bringing in plums and squash. We've got 2 beef steers that we just processed. We're fixing to process pig. We've got all this coming in. We talk about buying, precious metals. We talk about making sure, like you're sitting on a 1997 Dodge truck that we've put a lot of money into because it brings value, because it lost all its value back the last 10, 15, 20 years. So now it's just an antique vehicle that does everything I want it to do. When I start investing in things like that, in food, investing in gold, investing in precious commodities, when I start investing in my family and making sure they're taken care of by providing food and security, by teaching them defense, what I'm doing is I am building a lifestyle that's alternate to the society that we're in, to where if I see a goose egg, yes, it will affect me, but it will not take my whole life away. If everybody woke up and had no money and debt was skyrocketing, crisis and chaos would be a panic. Yesterday, when the market had a quote-unquote technical glitch, what I believe it's foreshadowing, had a technical glitch where several monster stocks, Berkshire Hathaway was one, where it tanked, people panicked. Just like the meme stalker, actually, E-Trade is fixing to take Roaring Kitty off their platform because he is making so much manipulation in the market because of something he says or does. What that means is when you have that kind of volatility where people are so encaptivated with making more money because they don't have enough, that is going to cause a problem for the system. Why do you believe we are delinquent in our credit cards? Over $1.2 trillion in credit card debt. That means people did not quit spending even though they didn't have the money. So therefore, again, the banks quote unquote back those, and you're not paying them, you're not putting your deposits in because you have no money. Therefore, the banks are shuttering and the FDIC is sounding the alarm because they don't have the money to cover it. And you know where one of the biggest problems with these banks are? Mortgage-backed securities, mortgages, problems with real estate, commercial lenders, and deposits, and personal credit card debt. Well, guess what? The economy's not getting better for commercial real estate. People can't buy homes right now, and the ones they're buying, they're just barely making the payments, and they're trying to rent them out, and so they're charging more for rent. Well, there was tons of people interviewed saying they can't afford $900 to $1,500 payments per month when they only make a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 income a year. And we're thinking that's a lot of money, but when half of it's going towards rent, that's not a good thing. The problems that we're seeing that's causing the bank issues, no one is solving and no one's talking about it, and it affects 100% of Americans, because 100% of Americans have some form of money in a bank or in a system or in a pension, some kind of access where you don't just have piles of cash. Not saying that piles of cash is a bad thing, but if it affects 100% of us, don't you think when the FDIC sounds alarm to the Biden administration and to our congressman that someone should do something about it? People are talking about it, but it was on the 3rd and 4th page of quote-unquote breaking news today. It's not on people's radar. You know when it becomes on people's radar? When it causes a crash. And then people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see it. All the while, people like us has been telling you, you better start prepping and doing other things with your money, because how safe is it? I think back in the cowboy and Indian days. You know, you saw the Wells Fargo, trucks, and people would rob trains. And I used to think, I'd love to live back in the cowboy and Indian days. And then I think sometimes I'm like, well, you know, things were not safe because you either had to protect what you had, or, you know, how safe was your banking? Because if somebody robbed the bank, there was no insurance. You just lost everything. Do you realize we're almost there now? We're in a polarized society to where you feel like you got to defend everything anyway because both sides can't get along, and then all of a sudden the banking's collapsing and you're worried about your money inside a bank. We're almost living in that time once again. The difference is sustainability. Those cows, the pigs, the gardens. People now don't know how to raise their food. People now don't know how to be sustainable. People now don't even know how to defend themselves and their family. And that's what you better be learning. FDIC sounds an alarm about your banking. What they're actually alarming you for is a chaotic situation in America. I believe there is going to be something major happen before the election. I've told you that. I've preached it. I hope that November 5th comes, Trump wins, and we all look at it and say, Colby, you were wrong. I hope that's the case. But you know what? I'm not depending on the FDIC. I'm depending on prepping. I'm depending on my own insurance, taking care of myself and taking care of my family with the food system, with precious metals, with making sure I have everything I need. Because if I wake up one day and there's a goose egg sitting there, zero balance, it'd make me panic, it'd make me worry. But then I'd go back and say, you know what? We've made preparations for just a time as this. And you need to too. Guys, let me know what you think. Am I crazy? 517 billion. That's not chunk change. That's a lot of money. That's $500 billion. We need to be paying attention to that, because that is a big amount of money. And if the FDIC can insure those 63 banks, what happens when it's 100 banks? What happens when it's 200 banks? What happens when it's your bank? That's when the crap will hit the fan. Prepare now so you won't face that. When you hear these alarms, let signals go up in your head and say, you know what, I better get out of debt. I better start making wise decisions. Because one day I may look back and say, have literally nothing. Have nothing but debt and a bunch of wants and things that depreciate. And that's not how you're going to protect your family. If I lose everything and I protect my family, my wife, my kids, and I'm able to feed them, I've conquered everything I need, especially if I can also do it in a way that's morally obligated and valued system, where I taught them not only that, I taught them about Christ, I taught them about spiritual things, then I've won. I challenge you to do the same thing. God bless.
You can take me high.